After taking a quick look, a mind map. All right. Very simply put, it's a brainstorm, right? So here's an idea of what a mind map would look like. For the purpose of this, you might say special education, and then just have some branches off in regards to every single one of the topics we're going to talk about, what kind of keywords you see, what kind of ideas there are associated with these things as we go. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. First time I've tried that before. So yeah, I like it. So take a picture or create it online. Then at the end of class, take a picture and upload your assignment as your exit ticket for the day. I like it. Tool mind mapping. Mind mapping or semantic mapping techniques may be helpful. A mind map is a diagram used to visually organize information. A mind map is often created around a single concept. Example. So the example will be that website I just showed. Autism. So here's where the assignments from last week come in. Somebody chose autism as the disability category to go in depth on. So we'll have someone, whoever that was, share their one-page poster in regards to autism that has the 5 main bullet points that I'm looking for. And I will read this particular piece here real quick. Autism means a developmental disability significantly affecting verbal and nonverbal communication and social interaction, generally evident before age 3, which adversely affects educational performance. Other characteristics often associated with autism include engagement in repetitive activities and stereotyped movements, resistance to environmental change or change in daily routines, and unusual responses to sensory experiences. The term does not apply, that's a typo, if a child's educational performance is adversely affected primarily because the child has an emotional disturbance. A child who manifests characteristics of autism after age 3, that child could be diagnosed as having autism if the criteria in the above paragraph are satisfied. So lots of little legalese there in regards to that. I'm going to reread this one real quick. The term does not apply if a child's educational performance is adversely affected primarily because the child has an emotional disturbance. That's an interestingly worded sentence there. I guess it just means that a child could have multiple disabilities as well. It's an interesting one. I don't like the way that's worded. But that is true in regards to verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, generally evident before age 3. That is all true. Examples of students with autism. Let's take a quick look at that video. Ooh, we're not going to watch 18 minutes of it, though. I'll tell you that much.
Ask people to describe a child with autism, and you're likely to get a stereotype.
A child that's nonverbal,
inside themselves, cut off from the world.
Who doesn't understand
I
language.
wonder if I can
They
get
don't
rid
think the
of
way
that.
they should think.
Yes.
Rain Man. Everybody says Rain Man.
Has difficulty communicating.
someone who's severely intellectually disabled.
While these descriptions apply to some children with autism, it's not the full picture. Once you understand what autism is and how it affects individuals, you'll be better prepared to teach students with the disorder and successfully integrate them into your classroom. Autism is a lifelong developmental disorder that affects a person's ability to communicate, form relationships, and respond appropriately to the environment. It results from a neurological condition that impedes normal brain development in the areas of social interaction and communication skills.
There are many more of these individuals in our midst than there ever have been before, and the likelihood that we're going to encounter them in our classrooms, in our communities, is extremely high.
An accurate perception of autism from the child's point of view may be hard to convey, but a comparison is useful.
If you were to say to me, how are hearing impaired individuals different from typical students, I would simply say they don't process auditory information in the same way. That's a pretty easy explanation. Visually impaired, they don't process visual information in the same way. People with autism don't process the environment in the same way. Oftentimes they can't pick out what you're talking about. They have a hard time understanding the main idea. So they're not processing the world in the way you think they are.
Autism is called a spectrum disorder because its symptoms and characteristics appear in a variety of combinations, from mild to quite severe. As a result, children on the autism spectrum range from those with extreme developmental disabilities to those with surprising intellectual abilities.
IQs can vary from an IQ of 20 to an IQ of 150 or greater. You have children with autism who are nonverbal, and then you have children with autism who know more words than a university professor. You have children with autism who would rather be by themselves, and then you have those who want friends but who do not know how to make them.
Students with autism may also exhibit extreme sensitivities to the environment, being overly distracted by the hum of a computer or feeling overwhelmed by a particular odor.
Some of our students may have hearing so sensitive that they can hear construction 3 blocks away. They may be distracted by the sound of pencil on paper. Turning of a page can disrupt them.
And sometimes it makes it extremely difficult for them, not just to stay kind of calm behaviorally and to kind of regulate their reactions to those things, but also to attend to whatever else is going on in the classrooms.
Polytheism means beliefs in many gods.
At the higher functioning end of the autism spectrum are those individuals who tend to be more adept at speaking and using language and are capable of doing so convincingly. Academically, these students tend to be very capable and, because of this, are often included in the general education classroom. However, they still exhibit many of the common characteristics associated with autism.
Someone with autism or Asperger's or any of those spectrum disorders, they're the same as a regular person. It's just there's a little bit different about how they communicate.
Their problems are often in the areas of social skills. They have a difficult time navigating the social environment. They may have anxiety, which really compromises their ability to deal with complicated environments, and you're not going to find anything more complicated than middle school and high school.
In preschool,
That's probably where I'll stop it. I might show the preschool bit too, but I want to give the presenter a chance to share their information, and you'll see that it says candidate fact sheet here. And whoever's doing autism will have the chance to take the floor and give their 3 to 5 minute presentation. And then we go into deaf blindness. Deaf blindness means non-committed hearing and visual impairments, the combination of which causes such severe communication and other developmental and educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in special education programs solely for children with deafness or children with blindness. And then we go into the candidate fact sheet there. Deafness, deaf, hearing impairment. Deafness means a hearing impairment that is so severe that the child is impaired in processing linguistic information through learning with or without amplification, which adversely affects educational performance. Hearing impairment is a federal category or disability, which includes both hard of hearing and deaf individuals as defined above. And then we have the candidate fact sheet. Hard of hearing, so going back, he said deafness, hearing impairment. Well, we have hard of hearing here as well. Hard of hearing means hearing impairment, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance, but is not included under the definition of deaf in this section. So hard of hearing, but not deaf. Speech or language impairments means a communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, language impairment, or voice impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. And candidate fact sheet. Visual impairment, visually impaired, including blindness, means impairment in vision that even with correction adversely affects a child's educational performance. The term includes both partially seeing and blind children. So again, deaf blindness, so deaf blindness, deafness, hard of hearing, Then visual impairments, candidate fact sheet. Intellectual disability. Intellectual disability means significantly sub-average general intellectual functioning, existing concurrently with deficits in adaptive behavior and manifested during the developmental period that adversely affects a child's educational performance. And again, the characteristics. Specific learning disabilities or difficulties. So this one's a bit of a catch-all. SLD means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or to do mathematical calculations, including such conditions as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimum brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. Dyscalculia can also be in this. The term does not include learning problems that are primarily the result of visual, hearing, or motor handicaps, of intellectual disability, of emotional disturbance, or of an environmental, cultural, or economic disadvantage. So there's a big umbrella for SLD. Lots of executive functioning problems associated with SLD, if you ever heard of that term. And we'll have the candidate fact sheet for that. TBI, traumatic brain injury. Traumatic brain injury means an acquired injury to the brain caused by an external physical force resulting in total or partial functional disability of psychosocial impairment, which adversely affects educational performance. The term applies to both open or closed head injuries resulting in impairments in one or more areas, such as cognition, language, memory, attention, reasoning, abstract thinking, judgment, problem solving, sensory, perceptual and motor abilities, psychosocial behavior, physical functions, information processing, and speech. The term does not include brain injuries that are congenital or degenerative, nor brain injuries induced by birth trauma. There's the candidate fact sheet. And ED, my neck of the woods. Emotional disturbance. Emotional disturbance means a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time and to a marked degree that adversely affects educational performance. A, an inability to learn which cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. B, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. C, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances. D, a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression. Or E, a tendency to develop physical symptoms of fears associated with personal or school problems. This term includes schizophrenia. The term does not apply to children who are socially maladjusted unless it is determined that they have an emotional disturbance. Again, lots of different legalese there in regards to that. Socially maladjusted. A person can be socially maladjusted but not have an emotional disturbance is what they're trying to say there. Their social maladjustment might be very easily changed with enough practice. So when I say easily, maybe within a month or two, the person realizes, oh, that's not an appropriate thing for me to be doing, and they change the behavior. Whereas someone who has an emotional disturbance, you can change the behavior by teaching them the behavior, but it takes a much longer time. It's much more pervasive. That's kind of what we're looking at, is a pervasiveness of mood or behavior or inappropriate interactions with peers or adults. And then we will have a candidate fact sheet for that as well. Orthopedic impairment. Orthopedic impairment means a severe orthopedic impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. The term includes impairments caused by congenital anomalies such as club foot, absence of some member, etc., like the kid we saw who had an arm amputation. Impairments caused by disease, poliomyelitis, bone tuberculosis, etc., and impairments from other causes such as cerebral palsy, amputations, fractures or burns, which cause contractures. And then the candidate fact sheets. OHI, other health impairment. Other health impairment means having limited strength, vitality, or alertness due to chronic or acute health problems such as a heart condition, tuberculosis, rheumatic fever, nephritis, asthma, sickle cell anemia, hemophilia, epilepsy, lead poisoning, leukemia, or diabetes, which adversely affect a child's educational performance. ADHD can be included in this, by the way, for OHI. Let's see, is that a video?
There are
It is.
101 ways that you could get clients for your agency, coaching, or consulting business, but there are 3.
Hello, teachers of brains. Back to school is happening,
Oh,
and
like her.
probably you have mixed feelings about it. Maybe you're looking forward to discovering the bright, gifted student with so much potential. The one who asks great questions, thinks outside the box, loves to learn, and with the right encouragement, amazes you with what they can do. The student you hope will someday accomplish great things and think back to the teacher who inspired them. You might be a little worried about the student you know will be a challenge. The student you hope will someday graduate? But here's the thing, they might be the same student. Welcome to the wonderfully complex world of ADHD. I have ADHD, and I've been both of those students. I was the student who ditched class, or be in the front row with both hands raised. I was an award-winning honors student, and a community college dropout. But I have done great things. And I do think back to the teachers who inspired me, the ones who recognized my gifts, not just my challenges. If you're a teacher and you're watching this video, I'm guessing you're that kind of teacher, which makes you incredibly important because it's not easy to do what you do. I'm not a teacher, but I do know ADHD. So I'm here to share what I know best in the hopes that it helps you do what you do best. If you have ADHD students who may or may not be diagnosed, this is what you probably see in class every day. This is what you can't see. It's a lot. And this is what it feels like. ADHD is frustrating, not just for you, but for us too. We do battle with our own brains every single day. Like most students with ADHD, my performance was all over the map. It drove some of my teachers crazy, and a lot of them gave up on me. A lot of them believed in me, told my parents I had amazing potential, and that I just needed to try harder. Here's what they didn't know. I was already trying so hard. I tried so hard I often didn't make it to bed before I passed out from exhaustion. I didn't stop for dinner. I canceled on my friends. I learned to feel guilty if I took any breaks at all, because clearly the work I was putting in still wasn't enough. When I skipped class, it was because I was embarrassed that I hadn't been able to focus long enough to finish my homework, or that I'd forgotten about the project that was due until it was already too late to do it right, or that I was so disorganized I couldn't find my book. When I was called on to read and I didn't know what page we were on, it was because it hurt my brain to read as slowly as the class. And the only way I knew how to keep my brain engaged was to read at my own pace. When I asked too many questions and my teachers couldn't get through a lesson, it was because knowing I might be called on was the only way I knew how to stay focused. When I could tell it was annoying them, I started sitting in the back and drawing in my notebook so I wouldn't bother anyone. And when I stopped making the effort entirely, it was because I had learned that my effort didn't matter. My teachers didn't see my effort. They just saw the difference between my potential and my performance. And like most students with ADHD, that difference was huge. I took medication to help with my symptoms, but I still had an ADHD brain, which meant a lot of the things that worked for the other students, the things I thought should work for me, didn't. When you have a brain that works differently, you have to work differently. But when I was younger, I didn't know that. I didn't know there were strategies that could help me get projects done on time or stay focused without distracting anybody else. I just knew that I kept doing things wrong.
I'll stop it there. She's great, by the way. Her name is, yeah, that's her.
Hello, Brains.
How to
Hello, Brains.
ADHD.
Hello, Brains. On this channel, we talk a
Yeah, she's she's an interesting character. She does a lot of stuff for TED Talks and things like that. But this is her particular YouTube channel. What's her name? I can't remember. Oh, I'll have to figure that out before we get into the class. But yeah, I've seen her videos before. She's great. Does TED Talks. Yeah, I'll try to find her name before we get the class going here. EMD, Established Medical Disability. Oh, and then do I have a spot for OHI? Candidate fact sheet. So we do have the candidate fact sheet. So it probably does the candidate fact sheet. Then the ADHD is probably what I'll do. Established medical disability. a disabling medical condition or congenital syndrome that the individualized education program team determines has a high predictability of requiring special education and services. California Ed Code section, blah, blah, blah. Note this eligibility category is only applicable for children ages 3 to 5. So let me reread this one more time. A disabling medical condition that the individualized education program team determines has a high predictability of requiring special education and services. Don't use that one. I don't use that one all that much. I would imagine that when we get to the candidate fact sheet, it's going to be talking about things that have already been found in IFSPs, which is like an IEP, only done in the preschool setting and usually follows the student into an IEP. So I'm sure that's what we're going to be discussing. Multiple disabilities means non-committed impairments, such as intellectual disability blindness, intellectual disability orthopedic impairment, the combination of which causes such severe educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in special education programs solely for one of the impairments. The term does not include deaf-blind children. So a conglomeration of different things, if you will. Kind of like if I think about my brother who had autism, Tourette's, and schizophrenia. You know, he had autism to go along with something that was OHI, you know, and honestly, there weren't very many school systems that could handle my brother. We had to put him in a residential placement center back when he was 12, if I remember correctly, and that was really rough. And those things do happen. There are students out there who are really unlucky in their life, and unfortunately do have those kind of things happen to them. And then we'll have a candidate fact sheet for that. Some current data: the disability categories and enrollment breakdown in California for individuals newborn through 22 years of age who receive special education services in 2022-23 are as follows. So this is all the students in the state of California, how many were in special education, and what their particular needs were. So autism, right off the bat, almost 150,000 students in the state of California were receiving special education services for autism. Deaf blindness, 87. So that's probably going to be the smallest number we see there. Yeah, it is. Deafness, 2,851. 21,600 for emotional disturbance. Hard of hearing, almost 9,500. Intellectual disabilities, 40,500. Multiple disabilities, a little over 8,000. Orthopedic impairment, a shade over 7,000. OHI, 118,687. And then specific learning disability, 279,200. So SLD is the highest, followed by speech or language impairment, followed by autism, followed by OHI. And then traumatic brain injury, 1,312, visual impairment, 2,581. In Lake County, we have some data on that as well. It's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in there at all. It looks like I can. Okay, cool. So if we look at Lake County, we can see that 28 individuals. Let's see if I can get a little more. For intellectual disability, we can see that 28 Hispanic individuals and 54 white students were diagnosed with an intellectual disability and getting special education services there. This was 22-23 data, I believe, also. State total was 43,000. No hard of hearing, no deafness. Speech or language impairment, right there. Visual impairment. Emotional disturbance, 52. And that was all white students, I believe. Yeah, white students, okay. We got orthopedic impairment. Nobody with orthopedic impairment, okay. OHI, 18 Hispanic, 74 white. SLD, here we have a mixture. 20. If I could go back, I would. But we're already this far. There we go. I could do this. Autism. Kind of a low number for autism, I think. Total, you have 1,212 students in Mendocino. That was Mendocino, right? Oh, let's see here. Ooh, did I screw that up? I did screw that up. I'm going to have to change that up. Ugh. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, I did screw that up. There we go. That was for Lake County. And then Mendocino, we have that information right here. A little hard to see again, but this is what they do. They track this information as shown here. So you get an idea of what your student body population looks like over there. CFC final project. Another quick discussion on that. Parts 1, Part 2, Part 3. Just a reminder that that's coming around the corner. Well, not around the corner, but we will be doing that for the final. Homework. This week, read the article and respond with a one-page summary of the article regarding adaptive skills that you have been assigned. So this is the... Oh, no. That's right. It's not working there. So let me go to the homework, assignments, and let's view as a students so that I can show you all exactly what we're looking at. And we are looking at past assignments. So homework 1 was the educator fact sheet that we're working on. Homework 2 is right here. And the assignment context candidates will be provided an article. This assignment will connect with the TPEs, blah, blah, blah. Here's the copy of the article. That is the article we are reading, talking about differentiating content, okay? So how do teachers differentiate instruction? Here's the article for you. Please read that. Give a reflection on it. That is what we are doing. And it says regarding adaptive skills that you have been assigned. Interesting. So is this about adaptive skills or about differentiating content? Either way, I mean, hey, talented teachers differentiating instructions. I will want you guys to read this anyway. So, and then, boy, is it... Yeah, it is kind of messed up there. Okay. Well, the big piece is I do want stuff on differentiating content. That is totally fine. And that is what we will be doing. And the exit ticket. So that is where we're going to be doing the turn into the mind map there. And then one other quick thing, one really good resource here. California Department of Education, their primary disability category codes, all right here. Everything we discussed. So you have that in your own little toolbox as well. And that should be it. I don't know why that's there. I gotta cut that too. Anywho, that is the videos for that particular class. I hope that was helpful. Hopefully you're in my class and you don't have to watch these videos, but if you do, you do. And have a good day. Bye-bye.